this episode of the AAF Exchange, economic bifurcation, intervening in Argentina, the latest on rare earths, and tariffs' outsized impact on small businesses. Joining us to discuss all of this is AAF President Douglas Holtz-Eakin and AAF Trade Policy Analyst Jacob Jensen. Doug, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
So, what's been on your mind?
The interventions by the Trump administration in the private sector and sort of forcibly allocating capital. So I'll give you two examples. One is the so-called trade agreements that they negotiated with South Korea and Japan include commitments by those countries to invest large sums of money, hundreds of billions of dollars, in the United States. And the way these work is the administration picks the projects, and then the funding goes into them, and then the profits go to the administration. They split it a little bit with the other country, but in the end, they're taking 90% of the profits. That's crazy. That's nothing but a disguised sovereign wealth fund. It's being held offshore, and they're allocating the capital. Simultaneously, we got them taking stakes in all these private companies. The latest is that they're taking stakes in quantum computing companies. Why would a quantum computing company not get access to capital? Capital markets aren't going to miss that opportunity. So which quantum computing company are you going to get? Mm-hmm. The ones who aren't very good. And so no thanks. I mean, I don't understand it, and I really think it's going to be a waste of a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, Fred and I talked about this on the last podcast, where, the market intervention of this administration, taking stakes in things, directing capital places. It seems very out of place to me, and it seems like, we talked about it. It seemed like it was going back to these tax credits picking winners and losers that Republicans used to rail about. The Solyndras and the etc.
Oh, absolutely. And this administration went on the campaign trail, railed at China for its interventions in the economy, and now it's doing exactly the same thing. So it's in my mind completely indefensible.
Yeah.
As a footnote to all of this, I get a morning email from Torsten Slok, the Apollo chief economist, and he had a graph there that showed that in the old days, the United States had 30% of the world's global capitalization in its equity markets. Now we have 50. So our private capital markets are by far the best and are getting better. They don't need to be doing this.
So again, we don't need the companies that aren't doing well enough to even get there.
No thanks.
All right. Well, let's turn to the economy.
Okay.
Something a much better topic to talk about, I guess. There's a lot of confusion right now in the economy. Obviously, There's not a lot of numbers. Data's sparse. The labor market seems to be at a standstill from what we know.
Yep.
And there's an increasing signs of economic divide. What's the latest?
So, there are all these simultaneous mismatches. So the labor market's dead flat in the water, and GDP now down at the Atlanta Fed is at 3.8% for the third quarter. How do you do that? Well, you have to have this amazing productivity boom. Where's it coming from? You look for investments in that, and we have pretty strong investment, but it's all in AI and nowhere else. And so there's a complete bifurcation there. And if the AI boom, which looks like a bubble, sort of goes down, what happens? And then the consumer sector, you look out there and the numbers seem strong, but then you see subprime auto loan delinquencies bouncing up to sort of record highs in January and staying there. Lots of distress in the low-income credit markets. You go look at what the lower-income individuals are expecting for their earnings growth. Nothing. What are they expecting about unemployment? Rising. So there's a sort of a two-part household sector as well. High-income individuals are doing well. They're spending a lot of money. But the remainder, not so much.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of I keep reading stories about people are using like credit cards more and more to keep up and to just keep the numbers where they should be.
And the credit card companies are sort of watching this slide from sort of luxury items to necessities, and you can see that, and the Walmart tapes show that, and those signs of distress seem to be real.
Interesting. So what are the challenges? What challenges does this pose for the Federal Reserve?
Well, the Fed can't target individuals or companies or anything, so they have to decide where we're going to place our emphasis. We have two mandates: inflation, employment. The labor market's dead flat in the water, So it makes you think maybe we should do something for that. But if growth is at 3.8%, which is above trend, aren't you exacerbating the inflation problem? What do you do? And so they really are stuck. And that's in the absence of considerations about tariffs, which come up all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. Turning to Argentina, what stands out to you about the U.S.'s decision to step in and support Argentina's currency?
The absence of any sensible economic rationale. Other than that, it's all good. When this first was floated, Secretary Besson said, well, they're systemically important, which is just absolutely false because they are a serial defaulter. They've had all sorts of economic problems, and the U.S. has never been affected by it. So the notion that somehow our economic outlook is affected by this is just, there's no foundation for it. So then they said, no, they're very important. They're an important part of South American democracy, and we have to support them. So we're going to give them $20 billion, conveniently enough, out of the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which the Secretary of Treasury controls. They don't have to ask Congress for the money. And then he comes back and says, oh, they are so important. We need to get another $20 billion. We're going to have private banks give them $20 billion. That's $20 billion private banks did not want to give them. They have had the opportunity. They haven't done it. So it's not a good economic proposition. The assertion is they want to counter China and their influence in South America. Okay, fine. Write a check for it. The federal government, if it's an important foreign policy objective, I accept that. Say so. Make the case to Congress. Get the funding. Give them 40, give them 60, whatever you think is appropriate. But this sort of backdooring the foreign policy and privatizing it makes no sense to me. And I sure feels like a mistake.
Yeah. Well, so how should we think about the risks and rewards of using financial tools like this to influence outcomes abroad?
So,
in general,
from an economic point of view, the risks outweigh any sensible reward, right? Private sector hasn't been lending to Argentina for a reason. We shouldn't put the Treasury's money in there for the same reason. So it has to be something above and beyond the economics of the proposition, because the economics are terrible. Can you counter China's influence with $20 billion one time? Mm-hmm. No. You have to have a much more sustained effort, and you have to make the case for Congress to fund a sustained effort. And it's got to probably be bigger than Argentina, where they happen to have their own favorite elected official. I mean, let's sort of think about it a little more broadly. So, yes, there's a place for what China has called the Belt and Road, and we've tried to counter. We put together a big, but we're not using that. We're just we have an international development bank, but we're not using it for foreign policy objectives. Why not?
Interesting. Well, Doug, thanks for coming on and talking through us these issues.
My pleasure.
We're going to go to Jacob next and have a good conversation about tariffs, trade, and rare earth minerals.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, Jacob, welcome back.
Great to be back.
It's been a few podcasts, but the tariff world is still moving on, and you've been busy as ever.
Yep, always busy, never break.
It seems like every day you're getting a new announcement that you're like, oh, here we go again.
Yep.
One thing you've been talking about recently is the rare earths debate, or policy objectives that are going on. The trade war. So the trade war with the U.S. and China currently appears to be centered around these rare earths. Talk us through what's going on.
Yeah, so this all kind of started about 1 or 2 weeks ago when the United States added a bunch of Chinese firms and people to what's called the U.S. Entity List. And just for simplicity's sake, that means that these Chinese companies and these Chinese individuals can no longer trade with the United States, essentially. So that's what sparked this. The next day, China responded with the big announcement, which is the rare earth export controls. There were a whole bunch of other announcements too, like tariffs on U.S. sugar and wool that kind of got left under the radar. Lithium batteries are also under export controls. So it's like a whole bunch of stuff's going on there. After that, the United States responded with a big 100% tariff threat, which is supposed to happen on November 1st. There were a bunch of other little minor things that happened as well. So that's kind of where we are with the rare earth debate.
Yeah, in China in general, just broadening it out a little bit, what are we up to on them? Like, I feel like it's quite a bit now.
Yeah, right now we're at about 55%. So with the 100%, we'd be at 155. That's essentially a complete ban on trade with China. So
interesting. Does that take into account any of the de minimis stuff that you're also tracking?
Doesn't even take into account that.
All right, let's get back to rare earth minerals for a second. Why is this such a big deal for the Trump administration?
Yeah, so I'm sure people have seen in the news that the Trump administration has been taking stakes in some mineral companies. This is due to the fear that the administration has about our over-reliance on China, especially with rare earths. China worldwide mines about 70% of all rare earths. They refine over 90%. So there's an extreme reliance from almost every country in the world on Chinese rare earths. So if they cut off our access to that, that'll hurt the U.S. defense industry, EVs, batteries, everything, semiconductors.
Yeah.
Everything's reliant on rare earths.
So like my iPhone.
Your iPhone, yeah.
Yeah. So like products like that everyday people need and
Exactly.
pretty much need and use.
Yeah.
I can't walk out my door without my iPhone.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, you have a great paper on that. So if people want to learn more, we'll of course include that in the note, a link in the show notes and that stuff, so people can learn more about that. But on another topic, because you're so busy right now, you recently wrote about tariffs' impact on small businesses.
Yeah.
What did you learn?
Yeah, so I learned that small businesses in the United States are kind of particularly vulnerable to the Trump administration's tariff policies and trade practices. So they have to deal with both direct and indirect tariff costs. I estimate in the paper that their direct tariff costs are around $85 billion annually, which is a lot. It's actually overrepresented compared to large businesses. Then they have to deal with a whole host of indirect costs that stem from all these different trade announcements.
Yeah, so what about those indirect costs?
Yeah, so they have to deal with compliance costs. So they have to comply with the new tariffs, which costs time and money. There's new regulations and regulatory burdens. That adds up to billions of dollars a year. The end of de minimis is another big one, where now they have no tariff-free pathway into the United States, which a lot of online shoppers relied heavily upon. And so that's having a really big impact.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
Jacob, it sounds like you've been busy and will continue to be busy over the next couple of weeks and months. So I'm sure we'll talk to you again. But thanks for coming on and talking about those issues.
Great, happy to be here.